Hey, good morning, everybody. And I'm sure we can all agree growing up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s was a really good time, especially so much in Port Richmond, which brings me to my first guest, Philadelphia and Bridesburg's own John McCann, otherwise known as the Philly Captain. Morning, John.
John, how are you? You know what's funny when you say Bridesburg? I don't identify myself as a Bridesburgian. I don't know if that's the term. I'm a Port Richmond guy. It's funny. I lived in Bridesburg for over 20 years, and if you ask me who I am and where I'm from, and I'll say I'm John from Port Richmond. Although people do know me as John from Bridesburg.
And by the way, Port Richmond people are way better looking than Bridesburg people.
I you know, well we I don't know how to respond to that now since I told you I live there. You know what I'm saying? I tell you what, when I went to Nativity BBN, Father Cotterill gave us a homily one time about how the people in Bridesburg are all going to die 2 years earlier than us in Port Richmond because of the dirty chemical air. That always stuck with me.
But so far, you're doing all right.
Yeah. Well, they say that the air is clean in Bridesburg. They mail you a pamphlet, but they also told the 9/11 responders that the air was clean too. So I don't trust their air quality test. So we'll see. We'll see how if I die 2 years younger than I should have.
So are you ready, John? What do you think? We delve into some little bit of Port Richmond
Yeah, let's do
history
it.
and where it all originated. So, John, what year were you born, brother?
77. I was born in 77. To two teenagers who lived in Kensington. My mom and dad were like 15 when they had me, and born in Kensington. Then about I think about like 3 or 4 or 5, we moved to Port Richmond. So
Now, are you an only child? Do you have any brothers or
oh,
sisters?
I have 4 baby brothers. Like I said, my mom and dad were 15 when they had me. So if I had any older siblings, it'd be ridiculous. But yeah, I got 4 baby brothers. Two of them are in law enforcement, like yourself. One's a big shot for a TV company in California, and another one is a rocket scientist. So I'm the YouTuber. So I don't know how. I guess in the grand scheme of things, the ladder of success, I would be at the lowest one of my 4 brothers.
I hear you. Well, let me ask you this question. How far back in childhood can you remember? And what stories can you give us?
Oh, dude. Well, my earliest memories being a toddler in a crib. And I remember when the day my mom and dad got married, I was like 18 months old. And I remember that my aunt was babysitting me and I didn't know who she was. And I remember being scared about that. And then I have little memories about being 3. I have a really weird memory. Like I can remember things vividly as a child, but if you meet me today and you tell me your name, I probably won't remember it. I don't know. But my earliest memory in Port Richmond, I guess I was 4 or 5. I was a year too young to be going into kindergarten, but my mom and dad enrolled me in the Richmond school anyway. And I remember when I was in kindergarten, school let out early and my mom didn't know about it. So I walked home from Richmond school all the way down to Gaul and Clearfield as a 4-year-old. And my mom was terrified. My mom came home. She was like extremely upset about that. But that's like the earliest memory I have about being in Port Richmond is leaving school early. And then like the next day I got kicked out of school because I was too young to even be there. So
Well, I remember when I was young, I guess even before the time where the parents started letting us, peruse the neighborhood, so forth and so on. I remember daily routines, getting up in the morning, mom making this or smelling breakfast being made, coming down. And we remember the Underoos back in the day.
yeah.
Cartoons were phenomenal. What was your Saturday and Sunday mornings like in the McCann household?
Oh yeah. Saturday. Well, you know what? I don't remember any real big breakfast. We were cereal for breakfast family. Maybe mom would make some oatmeal. But Saturday mornings, we didn't have cable back then. I remember cable getting installed in Port Richmond, but we didn't have cable at the time. And I waking up on Saturdays, that was it, man. That was our time for TV. And we would have cartoons, and then it would lead into wrestling. And then after wrestling was over, you go out and play. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The worst thing about Saturday mornings as a kid in Philadelphia is waking up too early. Because if you wake up too early, you want to see the cartoons, but you would get put channel 6 and they would have like Mighty Mouse on. And I didn't want to watch Mighty Mouse. I wanted to see, whatever, the Wuzzles or whatever. I'm trying to think of a part to Get Along Gang. I want to watch some of that stuff. I don't want to watch the Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse was garbage. And then I think Captain Noah would be on. And Captain Noah was great if all right, Captain Noah's great. Let's be honest. It was a garbage show. It was horrible. And the cartoons they played on Captain Noah are pretty shitty too. But yeah, cartoons, Sunday mornings, you wake up. Now, I remember as a kid, no Sunday morning cartoons until Fox 29 came around. And they started playing Sunday cartoons. And I remember we had the Jackson 5 cartoon. And then the rest of the cartoons were kind of girly. It was like Rainbow Bright, She-Ra, and Jem. So then you're stuck with a dilemma. What do you do as a child? There's nothing else on TV. Do you watch the girl cartoons or do you? I watched the girl cartoon. Jem's actually was a really good cartoon. So
there's I was on TikTok last night and something that brought a lot of memories back that I'm sure you're going to be like, wow. Do you remember Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling?
Oh, come on, dude. What are you talking about? Do I have it? I own it on DVD. I have a VHS cassette somewhere back here. Yeah, dude, what are you talking about? Rock and Wrestling. I remember the CBS had a morning lineup, and it was the year they brought in the Rock and Wrestling connection. They had Cyndi Lauper singing it was like kids just want to have fun. Like instead of girls, it made it just kids. It was Rock and Wrestling, and then it was Muppet Babies, Fraggle Rock. Dude, I could do the whole lineup. I could do the whole lineup from that CBS morning. That was the best. That was the best cartoons. Although the Hulk Hogan cartoon was pretty much garbage, but it's okay. It was as a kid, I enjoyed it.
So you had mentioned that you went to Richmond school at a very young age. What are the other schools that you attended in Richmond?
Okay, yeah, I went to Nativity. I went to Nativity BBN up until 2nd or 3rd grade. I think 3rd grade. And then after 3rd grade, I went to Richmond school for a year from 4th grade. And then from 5th grade on, I was in Conwell, which is in Kensington. And if you watch my videos on YouTube about Kensington, the main reason I lose my mind down there because of all the stuff going on is because I went to school at Conwell, and I just think about when I was a kid, what I see, what's going on down there. It was crazy. But I went to Conwell, then I went to high school in Center City at Franklin Learning Center.
This is a main reason. Like I totally idolize you, and I love your videos. Dude, seriously, guys,
don't idolize me.
I want
the videos. Don't idolize me.
I want to tell you why. Because just exactly what you said, how mad it gets you seeing what that area, the school you went to as a kid, what it has become now. And
yeah,
the thing is people now, or the kids nowadays, or the young adults, aren't going to remember. They don't know what it was like in these areas.
I'm not worried about them not knowing what it was like. I'm worried about the mental health they're going to need in the future, seeing dead bodies all over the street, Yeah. That's it. Yeah, they'll never, and that's the thing about this city. It's not just Port Richmond, Kensington. Nothing remains the same. Everything's changing. You go down Spring Garden Street today, starting at Delaware Ave and going all the way down to like the Art Museum. Spring Garden Street is changing from like 7th to Spring Garden. It's all changing. It's all going to be something different. I walk around Fishtown. I have no idea where I am because the landmarks I used as a child to know my way around are either gone or there's some like 7-foot monstrosity or 7-story monstrosity near it, covering the buildings that I used to know as landmarks to know where to turn. And it's crazy. Port Richmond, out of all those neighborhoods with all the gentrification and all the new construction, Port Richmond, it's pretty much still the same, right? I mean, there's some of those new structures, and some of the vacant lots we used to play in as kids have construction on it now, or houses or whatever. But I'm in Port Richmond a lot, and I walk around, and it still has the same feel as it did when I was a kid, as opposed to Kensington. But it's not exactly the same. Like I said, that's the whole point. Not everything changes.
So your younger years,
Yeah.
after you finish school for the day, I guess the early 80s, whatever, what was
Yeah.
your routine? What did you and your buddy, who were the people you hung out with? And what did you guys do for fun?
All right. I hung out with, man, I'm sorry. My nose keeps running. I have horrible allergies today, man. It's killing me with this weather. Let me blow my nose off.
This calls for a station identification.
94 WIP. Okay. I hung out with Mikey Food Stamp. His name was Mikey Food Stamp. And pretty much the greatest nickname in the history of the world was Food Stamp. And the reason why he got that name was we were walking through Cahawk's playground, and he found a food stamp, and he went to the store and spent it. So for the rest of his life, here we are 40 years later, and I'm still talking about Food Stamp. So I hung out with him a lot. I hung out with Tommy Turner, Brian Turner, John Thomas, like the whole Chatham Street group. And that was really it. I wasn't really popular as a child. I was a wise ass, and I would run my mouth a lot. And the kids in Port Richmond, who were like cool jock people, they didn't really but I was more of a punk rocker. But when you're a little kid, you don't know that there's like different, like there's jocks and music people and skate, like there's a whole different cliques. So as a kid, I hung out with Food Stamp and the Turner boys. We play a lot of stickball, a lot of softball, a lot of baseball, football, pretty much whatever sport was going on at that time, we would play it. We would play a lot of street hockey. None of us had roller skates or rollerblades, so we would play hockey on the flat at Richmond School. Stickball at Richmond School, which you can't even do no more because they built on top of the stickball field. That was my favorite spot as a kid, was Richmond Schoolyard playing stickball. I would do it. God, I almost every day in the summer. You play at least 2 or 3 games of stickball.
Now, in Fort Richmond, I remember growing up, everybody had their group of people, adults that we all messed with as kids. When I was younger, we had John the River Rat. John the River Rat, right? John the River Rat lived at Salmon and Monmouth on a very corner property, and he would always walk around, and he had these 2 dogs with him. There was another guy, I don't remember who he was, but as kids, it was fun. You messed with these guys, and it was like you would die, you couldn't breathe. You laughed so hard.
Yeah.
What was it for you guys? Like in your era, what did you guys do?
All right, here we go. All right. I call these guys the Port Richmond Avengers because they all had superpowers, or as I say, stupid powers. All right, so here we go. First guy we had. I'm gonna just listen. It's 2022. I would never call this human being this, but as a child, I was a jerk off, and we had Midget Man, and Midget Man was this guy. I think he lived on Thompson and Monmouth. I think Thompson and Monmouth, right across the street from MDG, and he was this guy who was a little person. And if you knocked on his door or if you yelled Midget Man, he would chase you on a 10-speed bike. But he would also carry a sword. So he would chase you with a 10-speed bike with a sword, which was about the size of him, going around the neighborhood chasing us. And that was Midget Man. Then you got the Diefendorf twins. And the Diefendorf twins, I don't even know where they just showed up one day. I was like 12. And all of a sudden, me and my boys were always running away from the Diefendorf twins. And there were these two guys, and I think they thought they were like Port Richmond Town Watch. And they had walkie-talkies. And they would get on the walkie-talkies and talk about the kids doing stuff. Now, when I was a 12-year-old kid, only thing I was really doing was playing kickball and baseball. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't doing any. We were just kids playing sports, you know? And we weren't anything but the Diefendorf twins we would be playing kickball at the library park, and they would like get mad because we would climb over a fence to get our ball back. And so they would chase us around too, the Diefendorf twins, and they were the hardest ones to run around with because they had walkie-talkie technology and bikes. So you got the Diefendorf twins, you got Midget Man, then you got Movie Monster, which is the second greatest nickname next to Food Stamp. Movie Monster lived on Livingston Street, and from what I hear, he still does live on Livingston Street. And I also want to state the fact that I never was the person to start the agitation. Usually, it was Mikey Food Stamp. Mikey Food Stamp, we would walk down Livingston Street, and he would say, "Oh, I got to go in the alleyway to take a piss." And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to take that because that's what we used to do. And he would act like he was going into this alleyway down Livingston Street, and he would just punch on Movie Monster's door. And then Movie Monster would come out and chase us. Now, the reason we called him Movie Monster is because he would chase us like a movie monster. He would just go, he would walk, he wouldn't run. He would walk all day chasing us. So we would be playing a stickball game at Richmond School, and we would see Movie Monster coming down Miller Street. So we would get like one or two more batters in. And as soon as he got closer, as soon as he got near Crooked Joe Falsetta's barbershop, we would get our shit together and just go and run away. He never caught us because he would just walk like it was the best. And then all right, Midget Man, Diefendorf twins, Movie Monster. Oh, Gorilla. Gorilla was this guy who lived on Allegheny Ave. Now, I didn't know about methamphetamines as a child, but he had this house on Allegheny Ave. And again, Mikey Food Stamp would just knock on his door and we would have to run. A matter of fact, and he lived right across the street from Our Lady Help of Christians. And whenever we got on Gorillo's block, I would always cross the street from Our Lady Help of Christians just because I know Mike or Food Stamp would knock on the door and we would have to run. And Gorillo, he would come out and he would chase us, and he kind of looked like a gorilla. He was like this big dude. And I remember he was chasing us, and Mikey Food Stamp, there was like a car battery on like a pickup truck, and he was chasing us, and Mikey Food Stamp picked up a car battery and heaved it at Gorilla. And it just bounced. It just bounced off him, and he just kept coming after us like the Terminator. And looking back on that sounds methy. That sounds a little methy to me. So we would just chase. That would be we wouldn't plan on getting chased all day by grown men, but it would be a regular occurrence. And they never caught us. They never ever caught us. That's the. I don't know how. I mean, Movie Monster. I don't know what would they have done if they caught us. That's something I always wonder. Gorilla. I think Gorilla would have killed us. Yeah. And Movie Monster. Not Movie Monster. Midget Man. What would he have done with the sword? I wonder.
Yeah. Castration.
Probably would have done some of my friends good.
Hey, so let me issue this. Port Richmond was awesome. We had some neighborhood rivalries. You had the Leprechauns. You had the Tigers. You had A&W. Just in all that general area. Big sports.
Yeah.
Were you a part of any of those organizations?
Oh, dude, wait. I'm Port Richmond Tiger. I'm a Port Richmond Tiger. My dad was a coach for the Port Richmond Tigers. Keith Daly was a family friend. We only lived we lived on Ann Street, and Keith and his family lived on Monmouth Street. And Keith Daly, one of the nicest guys in the world. If Keith Daly started the Port Richmond Tigers, I remember as a kid, I was like 6 or 7 years old, and we went going around collecting money, selling candy, doing something. And after we were done, it was me and my buddy Bobby Deacon. Keith took us to the corner bar at Clearfield and Richmond Street. And we sat, he had sandwiches, and he gave us a bunch of quarters, and we played video games. He told me my first Polish joke. It was I forget what the joke was. It was just fun. So he was just a nice dude. He was just a nice dude. And my dad would always be at the clubhouse hanging out. And unfortunately, when Sean was murdered on my corner at Belgrade and Ann. And I think my dad was the person who called, or my mom called Keith and was like, yo, Sean got beat up or shot. We heard like pop, pop. And we thought they were fireworks. And we go out the door, and Sean's lying there on the pavement next to Frank the Taylor's store. Yeah. But yeah, I was a Port Richmond Tiger. I still, like, once in a while, I'll be walking around Port Richmond and I'll pop in. I want a Port Richmond Tigers hat so bad, but they never have any in there. But yeah. I love the Port Richmond Tigers, and I don't know how they're doing these days. They're still in business. But yeah, dude, I'm a Port Richmond Tiger, and yeah, fuck the Leprechauns.
So growing up at your household, even everybody that grew up in Port Richmond, New Year's, Christmas, Easter, Halloween, all the holidays were always memorable. What were the holidays like at your guys' crib?
You know what? Whenever I think of Christmas, I think of Kensington, because we spent it at my grandmom's house. And I can remember Christmas in Kensington, they would have the garland underneath the L. Remember that? It looked all nice. Port Richmond, you know what? I grew up on Gall Street. That's the first block. We lived at Gall and in between Clearfield and Clementine, and then we moved to Belgrade and Ann. And I remember on Gall Street, we would have Easter egg hunts for the kids, and we would just line up. The parents would all get together, and they would hide Easter eggs on the block, and the kids would go around looking for that. Hold on, blow my nose again. What else we got? Easter. I remember Easter. Memorial Day is more of a Bridesburg thing. 4th of July, I would always spend in Center City. Christmas is Kensington. New Year's Eve is Center City. Yeah, really just Easter is my only memory of. Thanksgiving wasn't really a big deal. We just stayed at home. It was just, yeah. Halloween in Port Richmond was pretty good, right? Halloween, you go to Stephens, you get yourself a goldfish that dies in 24 hours. You go to Tony's Pizza, you get a slice of pizza. You go, where else do you go? Tony's Pizza. There was who else would give out slices of pizza? Not Perry's. Not Perry at Clearfield and Aramingo. That guy's a cheapskate. He ain't going to give anything away for free.
Ernie, was it Ernie's? That was
Ernie's. They gave out a slice too.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I used to walk around. I would walk around all of Port Richmond, and then I would trick or treat I did this 2 or 3 years. I would trick or treat to get on a bus, and the bus would drive me down to Kensington, and I would go walking around Kensington, around my grandmom's neighborhood, and then I would trick or treat back I would have a pillowcase full, man. You go into the bars, and you would get money off the drunks. It was a good time. I live in Bridesburg now, and Bridesburg really reminds me of what Port Richmond used to be like. As I was growing up, it's very, very similar, I think.
So as a kid, you roll into your teenage years, you get new friends, new schools. What was life in Port Richmond like once you hit in your teenage years?
That's I was bullied a lot in my teenage years. There was a lot of the kids, the jocks, they didn't appreciate the wise ass that I was. I I stopped playing sports. I was more into I was into my high school. I was an acting major, so I majored in drama. So I was working on doing plays and stuff. So I really didn't spend much time in Port Richmond as a teenager because the kids were jerk offs to me. So I got a girlfriend in Fishtown. My boys were all living in Fishtown. So I would go hang out in Fishtown around Cedar and Dolphin, just because the people of Port Richmond were jerk offs to me. But I don't really. I remember a lot of people were like drinking, on like the at Cahawks and at Port Richmond, like they were my age, and I wasn't really drinking that much then. I would maybe have a beer once every 6 months. But I remember like every weekend the kids would go out and drinking on the flat at Richmond School or near the portable. But I don't. Port Richmond really didn't change much in the teenage years. I would say Port Richmond changed in like the right after 9/11. Port Richmond sort of had I don't know, like a slight decline. I don't know.
What were some of your most memorable moments growing up in Port Richmond?
All right. Uh, I was an altar boy for Nativity BBN, and I was an altar boy from I think you start at second or third grade all the way up to eighth grade. I was an altar boy from third grade, and like nobody does it the entire time. Everybody he quit eventually, but I had to go to church. It was my mom. You have to go to church, and I hated going to church. So I figured if I went to church, I would be part of the show if I was an altar boy. So it made church go by faster. So I remember being an altar boy. Um, I remember doing a lip sync contest at Nativity BBN. I remember the dances at Nativity BBM. Those were great times. They would have like I don't know, once a Friday, you could all the kids in the neighborhood would go down in the basement of Nativity BBM, and they would play music, and then at the very end they would play like two slow songs, and it was very yeah, I remember like being nervous about having girls dance with you and shit. What else was there? There was the nativity. You got that. Uh, I hit a home run one time. That hit the fence. I was batting that goal in Monmouth at Cahawks, and I hit the fence that protects the basketball court. That was a pretty big highlight. Oh, I pitched I pitched 2 innings of baseball in my entire life, and I got 6 outs. I pitched a perfect 2 innings, and my last out, Danny Smith either struck out or grounded out, and I remember that. I remember Danny Smith getting the last out. We were friends. Wrestling, we would wrestle inside the library park. In the middle of the park, there's this circle where now there's all shrubberies and trees and bushes. It used to be just an empty circle, and we would wrestle in there. Stickball. I mean, and there was a lot of good memories and highlights. But yeah, I would say hitting that ball. No, the pitching, the 2 innings of perfect game pitching. That's my highlight of Port Richmond.
And in closing, what do you think the difference in today's Port Richmond from when we grew up? What do you think the difference is?
Well, the world's different everywhere, not just Port Richmond. The biggest difference to me in Port Richmond is the corner stores. The corner stores, every corner store had a personality. Now, when I was a kid, I worked at Aunt T and Me at Gall in Indiana. And you would go in the goal, and you would go into Aunt Tea and me. You order a half pound of lunch meat. You get a roll, and you get your iced tea for whatever. And then you would sit in the store and you would talk to the people in the store. This is before there was Facebook and internet. So the corner store was kind of like, where everybody gossips and talks to everyone. I once in a while, I'll pop in that store at Gall in Indiana, and everything's behind glass. Everything's piled on top of each other. There's no personality in the corner stores. And like you go in there and nobody says hi. They just look, they don't look at you. They don't pay attention to you. That I think is a big, because the people in the corner stores, like I grew up on Gall Street. So Ethel's at Gall and Clearfield was my corner store. And the people who worked at Ethel's, Gracie and John, they were allowed to yell at me if they saw me acting like a jerk off on the street. They'd be like, yo, what are you doing? I'm going to go tell your mom. And if I was acting like a jerk off now in front of Aunt Timmy, the people working there don't give a shit. So that's one thing. I think that's a real big thing too, because it really, I don't know if people look out for each other's kids like you used to. And maybe that's just the way the world is now. But I think I think that might be it. Like the corner stores and the way people look out for each other's kids. I think that's the big difference. But plus, and the property value has skyrocketed. Yeah. The property value is outrageous in Port Richmond.
Port Richmond, Fishtown, Kensington was always a neighborhood of families. You know what I mean? You had an uncle here, a cousin there, and this, that, you know what I mean? And you, like I said, you really couldn't get away with stuff.
Right. Yeah. You couldn't. I mean, I really, like, when I think about the corner stores at Port Richmond, every store, like you got Mama Yeagle's at Gall and at Gall and Allegheny, and you got the hobby shop. And I could picture all these people who own those stores. I think the majority of them are dead. Matter of fact, I would say all of them are dead, except for, I know the one lady from Aunt T and me, Mary Ann, she's still alive. And maybe some guys from Mark's Market. I remember all those stores, and I remember how much personality. Each store had a different type of personality, and it's all gone. It became more of a. They were always run as a business, but it was also, I don't know, it was like an extended family. I keep saying that, but that really, and every time I go to Port Richmond and I go into a corner store, I always hate how much of a, they don't care about the customers. It really rubs me the wrong way.
John, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day today. I know you got a lot of YouTube stuff going on, and everybody who's watching, don't forget, subscribe and like to the Philly Captain.
And like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit like and subscribe to John's channel.
Johnny Blees. Hopefully this one don't get canceled.
Nah, listen. What's the worst thing I said? Jerk off? You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I didn't say anything bad on this one. I think you're all right. Yeah. The only thing people might get mad about this one is Mikey Food Stamp might see it. He's going to be once in a while he'll pop in we're still friends on social media, and I'll make a YouTube video where I walk around Port Richmond and I'll mention the food stamp name. And like a year ago, he slid into my DMs and he was like, yo, would you please stop telling everybody about my nickname Food Stamp? He goes, it went away. And then all of a sudden, people are calling me Food Stamp again. So,
thanks to the Philly Captain.
That's all. Yeah, unfortunately. And come on, it's the best nickname. It really is. And Movie Monster is Movie Monster and Food Stamp. If anything, Port Richmond should be remembered on how cruel the kids were and how great the nicknames they were.
Totally agree.
It was a great spot to grow up. I think most people, and it's not just our generation, like my kids 30 years from now are going to look about how they grew up in Bridesburg and how different it is. And I remember when my grandmother was growing up, or when she was 50 in Kensington, she was telling me, oh, Kensington was so different back then. So it's just the way life is.
Yep. John, I want to thank you guys again. Congratulations on the birth of your grandson.
Thanks, John.
You're doing amazing with YouTube, and thanks for joining in, brother.
All right, go Phillies.
Go Phillies.
How do you end this, Sean?
I'm going to hit end meeting for one. I think it's going to close on us.
Okay. All right. Well, if it ends, I'll talk to you later.
You got it, brother. Take care.
All right. I'll see you.